The mother has to leave the family to work as a nanny in the Middle East. The school of thought of psychology that would best explain this would be behaviorism. Parents now have learned to do everything for their children and parents from how their parents did just to support the family. The philosopher that might have an influence on this would be Confucius. He has teachings on filial piety. I see this behavior in most Filipino families. 2.2 million OFWs all over the world left the country to support their parents and children. We have number 2. The salesman prepares himself for product presentation. He conditions himself on how to present his product, his strategy, and the possible questions or objections. He visualizes the situation prior to the actual presentation. The school of thought of psychology that would explain this would be cognitive psychology. He tries to think what people would think and ask when he presents. The philosopher that might have an influence on this would be Plato and Aristotle. Plato was a rationalist and Aristotle was an empiricist. They both believe that the world can be understood and predicted through logical analysis and observations.
Number 3. The person examines his life. He sees patterns in life that give him or her happiness. The pattern is both his or her strength and weakness. The school of thought of psychology that would explain this would be Gestalt psychology. Him seeing the pattern and focusing on that shows how he is evaluating himself as a whole, where he seeks to resolve the conflicts within his own life. The philosophers that might have an influence on this would be Immanuel Kant, Ernst Mach, and Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. The three believe that humans do not experience things in isolated pieces, but in meaningful and intact configurations. Number 4. The person buys iPhone 12 because his or her friends are using the same brand. The school of thought of psychology that would explain this would be psychoanalysis. This behavior falls under it, where people tend to seek immediate gratification or validation and express impulses, desires, and instincts. The philosopher that might have influences is Karl Marx. He has a theory on materialism. So this person is giving value or social validation to that phone. It proves that physical matter is the only reality and that everything including thought, feeling, mind, and will can be explained in terms of matter and physical phenomena.
5. The man's behavior is either copy from the parents or opposite of what his parents did. The school of thoughts of psychology that can explain this is behaviorism. It is because the man was influenced the development to psychology. Plato and Aristotle might get influence on these studies because their studies are having similarities to the study of psychology, like the thoughts influence the behavior. 6. Depression due to traumatic brain injury. The school of thought that can explain this is cognitive psychology because this will help to those people to come up with memory disorders and to those who have brain injuries or memories. Locke and Hume, their study might influence to the psychology, like the importance of experience of life. The psychoanalysis is more likely their memories and dream. 7. Civilization can be achieved by promoting mass transportation, like train or bus rather than a car. Recreation of a family in the park, promoting the use of roads, transportation, bike, and pedestrian. The school of thoughts of psychology that can explain this is the Gestalt psychology. It is because this school of psychology played a major role in the modern development of the society of human sensation and perception. Ponty's study might influence in the Gestalt psychology. It is because to have a modern development, the people must have a healthy mind and a healthy body to achieve this goal. 8. The behavior of the person is affected by business zoning in the mall and comprehensive land use of the municipality or city. The school of thought that can explain this is humanistic psychology. It is because the behavior of the person is emphasizing the role of the environment. factors in influencing behavior to the near exclusion of innate or inherited factors. The philosopher that might get influenced to this is Kant. Theory might get influenced the study of the psychology of humanistic psychology. Focus on the use of free will on the person. On the other hand, the study of Kant is attaining the freedom of the person.
Technopenar attitude. The school of thought of psychology that can explain this is cognitive psychology because it emphasizes the processes of mind in using technologies. The philosopher that might have an influence is Aristotle. His studies have some similarities to cognitive psychology that studying the cognitive functions, especially sensory. 10. The man keeps on living with this unpleasant or traumatic experience. For me, it's psychoanalysis and behaviorism. Because of what happened to him in the past, then man's behavior will change toward the environment. The philosopher that might have an influence is Ponty and Mhel, because their studies might influence psychology, like the thoughts influence behavior and memories make the mind improve and healthy. 11. Many left-handed persons are good in art or in painting. Left side of the body is controlled by right brain, and right side of the body is controlled by left brain. The school of thought of psychology that can explain this is cognitive psychology or functionalism, because the school of psychology studies the mind and how minds control the body towards such things that humans like. The philosopher that might have an influence is Foucault's study might influence the cognitive psychology because they have similarities, especially his studies of knowledge and language. 12. The skills of Colton Harris Moore. The school of thought of psychology that can explain this, for me, it's behaviorism and functionalism because Colton was influenced by her parents and the environment he lived, that's why he made those things. The philosopher that might have an influence is Plato and Aristotle because their studies might have influence in the psychology and have some similarities.
Gestalt psychology is the school of thought for this scenario because the action of Steve Jobs is pertaining to his whole experience that you cannot connect the dots if you keep looking forward, but you can clearly connect it when you are looking backwards. John Wilk might have an influence because according to him, we are the same person to the extent that we are conscious of the past and the future thoughts and actions, in the same way as we are conscious of the present thoughts and action. I think the school of thought to the second scenario of Steve Jobs is humanistic because it focuses on self-actualization, that you do what you believe is great work, and the only thing to have great work is to love what you do. Aristotle's philosophy might influence this because according to him, the heart is the source of reasons. It's like doing what you love can give you so many reasons to keep going. For me, behaviorism is the school of thought for the last scenario of Steve Jobs because the behavior focuses on apparent conditioning in which you are wanting something more, but it takes a lot of unnecessary risk and consequences. The teaching of Socrates might have influenced this because according to him, strive to discover who you are, what is your life mission, and what are you trying to become. The statement of Jack Ma explains to the school of thought humanistic because its behavior or action is helping other individuals to fulfill their lives. Socrates and Aristotle might have an influence because according to Socrates and Aristotle, that happiness can be achieved through constant working for the good of others and virtues.